We all want to find that running back off the waiver wire that could help us out. We all want that stash. Whether it's a guy we're waiting on to hit, that lottery ticket, or the next man up, stepping into touches that could potentially help out our lineup, we need to be watching the tea leaves. We need to be watching these running backs to see who's going to be jumping into a much larger role. And we might be seeing something now with Zach Charbonnet, running back of the Seattle Seahawks, because Kenneth Walker is dealing with a calf injury. He's been out in practice Wednesday and Thursday. Now we're seeing what happens with him Friday. But we need to talk about Zach Charbonnet, whether or not you need him for fantasy football. We're going to go over the news, the facts, the data to see if this is a guy you want to invest in off the waiver wire for free. But before you do, you need to click that subscribe button right now. Tap it with your finger on your phone. Click it with your mouse on your computer, whatever you got to do to get the job done, because we're doing these deep dives every day. I give you the information, the advanced metrics, and then you determine what you need to do with these players. Click that subscribe button. Stop missing out. Let's look into Zach Charbonnet. First things first, Kenneth Walker's dealing with a calf injury. Out of practice on Thursday, out of practice on Wednesday. We're waiting for the practice report for Friday. That should be coming in soon, whether or not he's practicing in that. Thing is, calf injuries can be messy. It can be very mild. Not really a thing. He's just taking some days off. Or it could be more severe, depending on the grade of the strain. On top of that, with a calf injury, you can re-injure those pretty quickly. That's an off and on injury, so that's a player you need to monitor. You need to be watching Kenneth Walker. You need to watch him on Sunday if he's playing. You need to watch the reports between now and the start of the game. You need to pay attention to him, because this is an injury that could re-injure. Even if he comes back, he's good to go. Pay attention to him. That being said, Zach Charbonnet is an insurance policy. Probably should not be on waivers right now, considering he's sitting there for free. And if that calf injury gets worse, say he plays, suits up on Sunday, and Kenneth Walker takes some carries and comes out, and things get worse, everybody's going to want Zach Charbonnet. Everybody's going to be running to him. Why not just already have him on your team? We got some dank players on our teams. All of us do. Drop one of them. See what happens with Zach Charbonnet. And if Kenneth Walker's good to go, you know what? You dump him and get the other player off waivers. But if something happens to Kenneth Walker, if that calf strain gets worse, you already have Zach Charbonnet on your roster ready to go, seeing those touches. But if Kenneth Walker's out this week, you got Zach Charbonnet, and he's coming back from a hamstring injury. Hasn't been out playing recently. Also, he hasn't been seeing much production because Kenneth Walker's been balling out. He's been seeing all the touches, but he's not going to be seeing them if he's hurt and he's out. So you may want to see what's up with Charbonnet. So looking at Charbonnet here, he's not rostered in many leagues, just 30% of ESPN leagues. So he's out on waivers in a lot of leagues right now. You might be able to pick him up, get him as a stash just in case something happens to Kenneth Walker. We're just sounding the alarm on this. Now looking at his opportunities per game here, not seeing many touches because Kenneth Walker is a good running back. It's not Zach Charbonnet versus Kenneth Walker. It's Zach Charbonnet versus Kenneth Walker's calf. And if that calf doesn't hold up too well, we're going to see those opportunities increase immensely, because Zach Charbonnet isn't a dank prospect. He's got second-round draft capital, was a very prestigious prospect coming out of high school. We're going to dig into that because he was a four-star recruit, but he was a high-end four-star recruit, fourth in his class. Everybody wanted him because he was a big banger back. His highlight tape coming out of high school was him just running through faces. Not just running through faces, but blocking dudes straight to hell. Fun high school tape to watch. Go look at Zach Charbonnet. But when he got to Michigan, he was the first freshman running back to rush for double-digit touchdowns in the program's history. 2020 didn't go so well, but it didn't go too well for anybody. So he transfers to UCLA. Goes off there, over 1,000 rushing yards, and then he comes back the next season when he could have came out, because he would have been one of the top prospects in 2021. We were questioning that, but improved his resume. Rushed for 1,300 yards, was used more in the passing game, which is why he wanted to stay an extra year in college, because he wanted to up his skill set, get better in the passing game. We saw an increase in those numbers, and then advanced metrics are saying, hey, this guy gets you yards after contact. 4.15 yards after contact per attempt during his final year there at UCLA. forcing a lot of missed tackles. In the receiving game, 10.4 yards after the catch per reception. He can really scoot once he gets the ball in his hands. Not the fastest running back, but for his size, he moves laterally very well, and he can deliver the hammer at the point of contact. He's not a bursty guy. He's not a size-adjusted speed guy, but when he gets up to full speed, he's dangerous with the ball in his hands because he can run over you, he can run around you, he can scoot past you a little bit. He's got a little bit of everything in his game. He's not explosive like Kenneth Walker, but he's a jack-of-all-trades running back. And then we get into the NFL draft. Seattle already has Kenneth Walker. They drafted him in the second round. We're in an era where we don't spend draft capital on running backs, let alone pay for them when it comes time to negotiate or re-sign them. But we're like, hey, Zach Charbonnet's there in the second round. Let's draft another running back. Let's get another running back in the second round, even though we already have one from the prior year who went off, who is like the dandy in the NFL right now. Let's get another one, which is what they did, which means they value Zach Charbonnet and what they can do. Going into the season, when we were looking at these running backs were getting hurt left and right. Kenneth Walker had his time hurt. Zach Charbonnet had his time hurt. Kenny McIntosh had his time hurt. They were taking their turns with injuries as we were going into the season, and we were just speculating how this backfield was going to look like. But Kenneth Walker got better, and then he got healthy, and he started to run with it. Zach Charbonnet here has been injured off and on throughout the season, off season, and that's what we've been seeing here. Now he might be getting his opportunity soon, considering now Kenneth Walker's now in the mend. But going to the combine, we have a running back here who runs a 4.53, 72nd percentile speed score, decent burst score, more than good enough to get the job done at these specs. Good college production, broke out with 2 different collegiate programs, with Michigan during his freshman season, then initially with UCLA during his junior season, and then improved upon that during his senior year. So he has some good stuff in his prospect profile, so if he starts getting touches, might be able to give you some production with enough volume. Probably not good enough to usurp Kenneth Walker, but maybe his calf. Maybe his calf if it breaks. But looking at this team here, it's the Kenneth Walker show. We know that. But it's not him versus Kenneth Walker. It's him versus Kenneth Walker's calf. This team rushes the ball 25 times per game. Kenneth Walker gets a lot of touches. Has 109 attempts already on the season, 450 rushing yards. One of the top running backs in football right now, can handle a large workload. But, again, if you're out, you're out. And the next man's got to step up. That looks like it's going to be Zach Charbonnet, the guy they spent that second-round draft pick on. And you need touches. You need touches at the running back position. And then you look at the schedule. Not too great coming up. We got Cleveland. We got Baltimore. Tough to run on. And we don't know if Kenneth Walker is going to be out at all during this time. We don't know. We're speculating. This is an insurance policy. We're speculating to see if that does happen. We already have Charbonnet to put in there, and we're hoping some of these touches does something. That's what we're doing. So there is some risk involved because you're spending a roster spot on a player who may not be getting the opportunity, also facing some defenses that might just shut down the run game. That's a little bit dangerous. But on top of that, some of you guys need running backs getting touches anyways, and you're looking for the next best thing. If something happens to Walker, next week everybody will be going after Charbonnet, and we're just trying to get ahead of the curve here. We're trying to get ahead of Saturday or Sunday. If Walker is deemed out, you already got him. You don't have to worry about him. If not, you don't need him. You don't like the Browns matchup, drop him. Do what you want, but just hold him. See what happens, and that's it. That's all we're talking about here. You need a stash running back. You got one here. Very short term, but could increase to something more. If something happens to Kenneth Walker, this injury could be more than what we see. Could be less than what we see. But again, it's an insurance policy that you're stashing. Your full stash is at running back and wide receiver. You can't hold another running back. You don't need him. You don't need him. You don't have to have him. But again, he should be rostered in every league as an insurance policy. He should be on somebody's roster in your league right now. 30% roster rate is way too low. Should be pushing 50 to 60 really on ESPN. Really should be up there, especially now that we're speculating on Kenneth Walker. Not just that he's not playing, but if he does play, there's a chance that he could re-injure the calf because there's a high rate of that. There's a good likelihood of that. There's a chance of that. We're not betting on that. But you got Charbonnet just in case. Because if something happens to Walker, then you want to have Charbonnet on your team just in case. So you don't have to run to the waiver wire. And if that happens, then I got to do another video on Charbonnet anyways. Because you know what? He's going to be a hot waiver wire topic of the week. But I want to be ahead of this just in case Walker is out. And on Saturday and Sunday, the news drops. You already got him. You don't have to worry about him. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. Catch you on the next